The goal here is simple: to showcase how to deliver power to your GoPro during flight for extended recording times, and to use a technique that allows the camera to run without the battery inserted, resulting in cooler operating temperatures. Several gremlins develop when externally powering and/or charging the GoPro camera while the camera is filming. Charging the battery and filming at the same time will produce heat and can cause overheating and camera shutdown. Depending on your USB charging system, the charger may only deliver enough power to charge the battery while the camera is turned off. Recording and operating an audio interface will require more power as well more processing, which all leads to, you guessed it, more heat and potential camera shutdown during flight. GoPro cameras are very sensitive to power supply. Just because there is a USB power port does not mean the power from said port is clean. The power can be inconsistent, low amperage, low wattage, and even dirty. When I say dirty, I mean filled with electromagnetic frequencies that create buzzing sounds in your recordings. This, combined with a GoPro camera functioning in recording mode, will ultimately cause failure in your recordings. Regardless of whether you are using a USB power port in your airplane or a battery pack, we need to discuss USB power supply and how your camera works with it. Let's start with airplanes that have old-school 12-volt cigarette lighters, which can be upcycled into a USB power outlet with a 12-volt socket adapter. This is simply not an option. Do not use this method for clean power to your recording system. It was never designed for this modern application and will never work properly. Next, let's look at airplanes with integrated USB outlets. This can work, but not perfectly, and most certainly not every time. It is advised that you invest in an EMI filter, electromagnetic interference filter. These devices will help make your audio sound better by removing unwanted noise, making sound clearer, preventing hums and buzzes, and improving overall audio quality. Depending on your aircraft, any USB plug can be dirty and have an ungrounded power issue. The minimum power that a GoPro requires to simply charge the camera is 5-volt, 2.4 amp. When using external power to actually operate the camera, things start to get tricky. For example, when using our N-Flight Cam aviation audio and power cable for GoPro, the task of recording and driving an audio interface for an incoming audio signal requires more than 5-volt, 2.4 amp. The GoPro will try to handshake with the power supply to ensure it's capable of supplying the needed power. However, issues develop with many power supplies as they don't report their output accurately. This is why it is critical to purchase and use a high-quality power supply, one marked with Power Delivery, or PD, as well as IQ, Integrated Handshaking. When I say handshake, that's what the camera and the power supply do when they initially communicate. The first step to setting up your externally powered recording system is to make sure your GoPro has the most updated firmware available. The next step is to ensure that your power supply is clean and adequate for your GoPro. In some instances, you may need to update your camera's firmware to GoPro Labs' advanced GoPro user platform. This professional-level firmware will bypass the camera's power handshake and use the power supply as is, no matter what. If you fly in hot, humid climates, removing the battery under the GoPro Labs firmware will allow the camera to run without a battery installed. You do not have to have the GoPro Labs firmware to use this technique, but do test your setup at home before you get in the airplane. Giving the camera's processor more breathing room by removing the battery helps avoid overheating and forced shutdown of your GoPro camera. Use the GoPro Labs firmware and select PUSB equals 1 as the command to bypass the power requirement settings. This is a very complicated subject, so feel free to schedule a consultation phone call by emailing us support@nflightcam.com.